Good afternoon and welcome to Audit Risk Improvement Committee today. Thank you for attending. So I declare the meeting open at 3:02. So the Shire of York Audit Risk and Improvement Committee acknowledges the Balladong people of the Noongar Nation, who are the traditional owners of the country where this meeting is being held, and recognise their continuing connection to land, water, sky and culture. We pay our respects to all these people and their elders past, present and emerging. In accordance with Regulations 14I and 14J of the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996, notice is given that this meeting is being video and audio recorded to facilitate community participation and for minute-taking purposes. By being present at a meeting, members of the public consent to the possibility that their image and voice may be recorded. Audio recordings are published on the Shire's website following the meeting and may be released upon request to third parties. Members of the public are reminded that, in accordance with Section 6.16 of the Shire of York Local Government Council Meetings Local Law 2016, nobody shall use any visual or vocal recording device or instrument to record the proceedings of the Audit and Risk and Improvement Committee without the written permission of the presiding member. I wish to draw attention to the disclaimer notice contained within the agenda document and advise members of the public that any decisions made at the meeting today can be revoked in accordance with Regulation 10 of the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996. Therefore, members of the public should not rely on any decisions until a formal notification in writing from the Shire has been received. Any plans or documents in agendas and minutes may be subject to copyright. The express permission of the copyright owner must be obtained before copying any copyright material. Isn't it? I made it up on the spot. Yeah. No, it's in my papers. Attendance via electronic means. Is anyone attending electronically? That's nil. Standing orders, nil. Announcement of visitors, nil. Declarations of proximity interest. Are there any declarations? And that is nil. Declaration of financial interests, nil. Disclosure of interests that may affect impartiality, nil. Yes. So, attendance, we have... Do I have to read out all the attendance? I do, okay. Councillor Denise Smythe, Miss Sonia McKeever, Shona Zulsdorf, Councillor Trent, in attendance, staff, could I ask you to...
And today is still the temporary CEO, Alina Behan. And we also have the acting EMCCS, the Executive Manager Corporate and Community Services, Annika Burleson, and our Manager of Finance, Denise Gobart. We also have our EMIDS, Executive Manager Infrastructure and Development Services, Thomas Bruins, and Council Support Officer, Emma Hannington. And likely slightly late, Councillor Chris Gibbs, Shire President.
Thank you. Apologies, nil. Leave of absence previously approved, nil. Number of people in the gallery at commencement of meeting, nil. Questions from previous meeting, nil. And public question time, as we have no attendees, I will close public question time at 3:06. Is that right? I open it. I open question time. We have no attendees, so I will close it at 3:06. Written questions, nil. Public question time, nil. Applications for leave of absence, nil. Presentations, nil. Confirmation of minutes from the previous meeting. So, mover, Councillor Smythe. Seconder, Councillor Smythe.
Trent, seconds.
Thank you, Councillor Trent. Any comments or questions on the minutes? No? So I'll put that to the vote. Thank you. and that is 4-0 unanimous. Announcements by presiding member without discussion, nil. So we go to the first officers' report, which is 9.1, the business continuity plan on page 6 of your pack. And I open for questions before I move and seconder? Or do I get it? Yes, so we'll go to questions first. Councillor Smythe.
I actually sent my questions in. As the plan was developed in this... It's not working. It's on. Oh, no, now it is.
It's okay.
Hello? Yep, it's on. Okay. As the plan was developed in December 25, is the information still up to date? Because we're now in June, you know, with reference to the contacts and so on and so forth.
Through the temporary CEO, thank you.
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, I did a quick review for you. Absolutely, they all are. They do refer to substantive positions, so they don't reflect the current acting arrangements, but it would still essentially apply. So we are likely to do a review of this again early in the next financial year with some organisational changes that we're planning.
Thank you. Further questions? Ms McKeever?
With respect to testing of the business continuity plan, there's a section that talks about validation and it talks about testing it annually. Is that something that the Shire has been able to do?
Sorry, to this temporary CEO.
Thank you, through the chair. We are not up to date on that, and that's something we will need to do very soon.
Thank you.
Are there other questions?
None from me.
Thank you. Councillor Smythe? All right. Thank you. So I had a couple. Page 13. There was a reference to the copies and where they are. And so hard and soft copies of this plan are located. Do we not have it in the cloud as well? I would have thought... Does it? Page 13 of the pack at the bottom of the page. So it may state that somewhere else, but it just seemed to... Yeah. Zero? All right. Where are we? Is that above it? Sorry, what page are you on? Thank you.
Thank you, through the chair. While it doesn't state it there, I believe we do. So we will get that added to that document.
Thank you. Also, I read this obviously before I read the disaster recovery plan, but I think it's important that BCPs and DRPs are linked. So I just wanted some assurance that the two documents are in sync. Please. Thank you. Zia.
So thank you, through the chair. We have reviewed them together, so they are in sync, and we check them just to make sure and also against the risk framework as well, to make sure all the items that refer against each other have been synced up. But again, we will review particularly the business continuity plan again very shortly. We are looking at an organisational review early in 2026-27, and we'll have to bring these documents back again.
A couple of quick ones. On page 47, management principles, where they talk about business continuity events, and it says about more than one day. 47 of the pack at the top of the page. That just, it seemed to me quite rigid. I'm not entirely sure I think that 1 day outage necessarily constitutes a disaster, but it may be that that's a technical definition. It depends, of course, on what it is. Yeah. Yeah, up the top. Yep, that's it.
So through the chair, we did review that, and that's what we were comfortable with. So that would feel like a significant disruption to us.
Okay. My general observation is I understand that this has been informed by LGIS, the template that they have. I wondered if there was scope for maybe streamlining. It looked very comprehensive, well researched, etc. But I just wondered if there was an awful lot of detail and if there was the potential to streamline it without losing the thank you.
So thank you through the chair. Yes, we agree we could reduce that down somewhat and maintain the intent. What we will do when we do our next review is look to see if there's other best practice out there that we can reference rather than just the LGIS documentation.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? So I will put to the vote.
Just in terms of
Yep.
LGIS, they're the people that are covering us for insurance purposes. I would have thought that they'd have been the ultimate source, rather than going down to another shire down the road who may be using someone else as their insurer. Well, I believe everyone is covered with LGIS. It's just my concern that if you go off looking elsewhere, you may find that you don't comply with LGIS, who are going to be covering us.
Theo?
Thank you through the chair. So we did the same with our risk management framework. So we initially had a template, I'm not sure if you recall, that large spreadsheet, which was quite unwieldy, with 15 strategic risks which weren't really strategic. That was developed by LGS, and they were really aiming at the lowest common denominator, like band 4s who really got nothing to really work for. As we reviewed ours and looked closer at our strategic risks, we found other models that were more closely aligned with the way we do things, and we'll undertake the same rigour when we look at this as well. It could be this is the best way forward, but I think we do need to do that review.
I think it's helpful to bear in mind that LGIS is writing for the whole sector from 2 million to 300 million, and so they're capturing all permutations. And I guess my question was, do we really think that all of those need to be captured in this document? Do you actually have that many staff, like some of those things? So I will put the recommendations. I don't need to read them. Recommendations? The recommendations are on the screen in front of you. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Smythe moves.
Councillor Smythe moves.
And Councillor Trent seconds.
Thank you. Everyone can vote, please. That's 5-0, unanimous. 9.2, the integrity framework. Do we have any questions on the integrity framework? Ms. McKeever?
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to check that the policies relevant to the integrity framework listed in section 2.2, just when they've been last reviewed.
Thank you to the CEO.
Thank you through the chair. They've all been reviewed reasonably recently. The one that we do need to look again at is the employee code of conduct.
Other questions? Ms. McKeever?
Just confirmation that the public registers are referred to in the framework.
To the CEO.
In the interest of keeping the meeting running, I will check that and get back to you and take that on notice. Thank you, through the chair. So we actually run a cultural program annually. So we survey. I'll probably talk about it as it is now. So annually we do a survey of our culture just to see. We check for a range of things, including engagement, likelihood to leave, current concerns. We check for psychosocial hazards, bullying, those sorts of things. And the results of that survey then determine what the program is for the next year. So anything that's identified there as a standout, we would actually address. This year, for example, we've just got the results of that, again showing great engagement. But we've had, in the last year, we had overarching programs for everyone because the issues were similar across teams. This time seems to be a few issues popping up in teams that are specific to those teams. So this year's program, or the 26-27, will be developed just to target those things. And that's part of our maintaining integrity, but also managing our risk in the workforce space as well. I'll just pass that on also to our Acting Executive Manager Corporate and Community Services in case you wish to add to that.
No, I have nothing to add unless you wanted specifics on what this year's program was.
Just one last question. There's reference to the integrity education capacity under section 4.1. The last dot point refers to annual training for integrity, public interest disclosure and record keeping. Just confirming that this is done.
See you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, through the chair. Yes, we do run that annually, and we just completed that in May.
Other questions? So the Public Sector Commission that developed or has been doing the work around this, I know that they have prepared a self-assessment tool as well. Is that something you've used, or do you feel that that's something you would use in a year or two to test the framework? CEO.
And thank you for the chair. That's something we would look to in the future years to test to see how that was working, having only just got this one in place. Yeah.
If I could take you to page 62, which is the ARIC, it's really just to highlight, I know we've had a number of conversations around risk, and I know risk is maturing, and we can see some progress there, but it just highlights the importance of having a risk framework that's functional and one of the uses for it. The other observation, I know everyone knows it, but just think it's really important, no matter how many codes of conduct you have, it's never as important as modelling behaviours at all levels of the organisation, starting at council, through committees and through executive. And I know that you have reference to it, but I just think it's really important. So, thank you. If there's no other questions, I'll ask for a mover, please.
Councillor Gibbs moves.
Thank you.
Councillor Smythe seconds.
Thank you. And all those in favour? That's 5-0, unanimous. So 9.3 is page 65. Here we go. IT Disaster Recovery Plan. Ms McKeever, I might start with you because I think one of your questions will be important for all of us.
I'm just keen to get an understanding first, before I ask my question, about how the IT system is set up, whether there's servers on site, whether it's on site, off site, in the cloud, etc.
Thank you. CEO.
And thank you, through the chair. It's all of those things, which is it's a complex little system. So we do have servers on site. We have servers in data centres, backups there, and we also have some cloud service as well. We're reviewing that at the moment, just because the pricing on all of those items is going into very interesting territory. At the moment, it appears we had thought that moving to cloud was the most cost-effective way to manage. It doesn't appear to be so. It now seems that servers on site seems to be the better way to go. But then we balance that with the risk of, like a localised disaster. So we are currently looking to see how we wish to provision that into the future.
Sorry, microphone.
on page 76 of the agenda, let me just get back in there. It talks about recovery exclusions, and one of them talks about disasters extending beyond the physical office locations of the Shire, including challenges related to cloud environments, hosted data centres and the adaptation of home offices for work are beyond this particular document. So I'm just wondering how this is actually going to be applied in practice.
CEO?
So how will that apply in practice? So issues relating to home network infrastructure, that is essentially when someone is working from home, they do take home their piece of IT equipment from the Shire. If there is something at their house that makes that unmanageable, they still work on the virtual server, and that's cloud-based as well, so their work is backed up as they work. It would only be often, I think it would be the last hour or so that you may lose, or even the last couple of minutes, depending on when a backup occurred. So, provided they are saving as they go. So we can't manage all of those items. If we looked at the next one, internet service providers, if they were to go out, obviously we have no control over that. But again, that's really just a relation to the provision of service rather than the backup and the recovery. Other external telecommunications services, again, if the NBN goes down or Telstra goes down, we have no ability to manage for that, but much of our work can still be done externally. So it would depend exactly how that manifested. So if it was just a localised, so for example, we had the blackout the other day, and if we needed to use the server in the office, we have a USP for that. So if you're working outside of that area, you could still get access for a certain time, and we are about to. UPS, uninterrupted power supply. So we have something that keeps it running for a period of time. That is also due for replacement, and we're looking to extend the life of that so that we can aim for maybe 7 to 12 hours worth of capacity. At the moment, it seems to only reach 3 as it's getting to the end of its life, which still allows quite a bit of continuity. Similarly, if it was a service that didn't require the on-site server, or if it was localised to your house, for example, and you could actually just shift location and continue to work at the server in the office. It varies depending on the scenario is the answer.
So given that a fair amount is hosted off-site, this doesn't apply, this particular plan doesn't apply. So what happens if there's some sort of incident or event that happens off-site?
Thank you, through the chair. That perhaps affects the data centre or... Yep. So I'm just going to check to see whether our acting EMCCS does know that detail.
So for the external data centres, that wouldn't be on us to manage the recovery. If the incident happens there, that's not within our management capability, so therefore can't be part of this plan. We can only talk about our infrastructure and what's within our control, I think is what, yeah. So we have servers on site, which some of our processes are run through, like especially our financials. They are backed up off-site and retained in data centres. So potentially, if there's an external influence on the data centre, we might lose the backups, but we would still have our server and data on there. There are some software we use that are cloud-based, so we would have no control over if something happened to that cloud controller, if that makes sense.
So what's the Shire's plan if cloud goes down or the backup centre gets destroyed? What is there a plan in place, some other plan?
Yeah, through the chair. So with the items that are mirrored, that's no problem at all. The ones that do go off-site, they are, and I'm watching Annika and see whether she frowns at me a little. Most of those would be less critical services from my thinking. So it would be things like our attain, which is our delegations and capturing those. And she's mouthing something at me. I'm going to pass it over.
One of our criticals would be payroll.
Could I make a suggestion? I wonder if that may be part of your contract agreements, and you may need to check those.
Yeah, so what I suggest is we'll have a review of those more thoroughly, work out exactly what's off-site, and then we'll report back to Audit and Risk, yeah.
Thank you. I suspect there'll be something in signing up to that says what their responsibilities are, and I think you're probably on page 13 of the fine print, and if you have a look. Not that I know. Thank you. Any more questions? Do others have, Councillor Trent?
When someone takes work home to work, and is working from home, they're obviously connected back to the system. In terms of they're accessing anything which is highly confidential, like the names and addresses of all of our ratepayers. I don't know whether you consider that to be highly confidential, but can you be guaranteed that they're not going to gather information from that database and use it elsewhere, shall we say, for their own purposes?
CEO?
Thank you, through the chair. So that risk exists whether they're in the office or off-site. The reality is that they are bound by confidentiality agreements, and we would pursue the matter in accordance with legislation if there was a breach of such. So when people start, they sign up to those agreements and are constantly reminded through our annual refreshers of their requirements under the law.
Thank you. So local governments and state government departments need to have a business continuity plan and a disaster recovery plan. I was wondering why this one was IT. Given that a disaster recovery plan and the BCP need to be read in conjunction with each other, and the DRP is 80% IT, but why is it just IT rather than organisation-wide, and does it add another level of complexity if you have another document that needs to be read alongside those? Thank you, CEO.
Thank you, through the chair. I will take that one on notice, and I'll review the levels that we contain in each and get back to the committee.
Thank you. And also, I note the sections that were blacked out. So I'm assuming that those sections can be seen by staff. And is that something you might have considered as a confidential attachment to this committee? CEO?
Thank you, through the chair. That is correct, because this information is made public. So through the staff will absolutely be able to see them. And you're saying you would like to?
I just wonder. Well, I wonder in the future if you might consider it as a confidential attachment, because some of the quite large sections that were blacked out in there.
So it's names and numbers, and some of them are personal. So what we are no longer allowed to do as part of our reporting through council and committees is if an item is not confidential in the body of the report, the attachments cannot remain confidential either as we publish the minutes. So unfortunately we can't share that detail with you and not share it with the public. We would have to provide you a hard copy, for example, which is something we could do.
You can still have confidential attachments that aren't released.
We can have confidential attachments providing the report can be confidential, but it can only be confidential in accordance with the confidentiality requirements. And the majority of this report would suggest it would not be. Yes,
and it was read out at a meeting recently, and I know it's quite restrictive. But anyway, were there any other questions? Can I have a mover, please? Ms McKeever?
Councillor Gibbs seconds.
Thank you. Everyone vote. That's 5-0 unanimous. 95. The review of the investment policy. Questions? Okay.
Yes.
Councillor Trent. Councillor Trent.
As we know, we had the York branch of the Bendigo Bank, or the local bank down here, come along and address us last council meeting. And I did notice in the financial report with money invested with other banks. I'm just wondering whether we should not support the local people and then lift our investment with them, or whether they cannot guarantee that they would have, rather than have our millions of dollars sitting in their account and not being able to be used to gain an interest, whether the amount of money we've got spread around is a suitable spread, as it were.
CEO.
Thank you, through the chair. Every time we have an investment mature, we actually do a range of tests against that. So we look to see what our spread of investments already is, certainly against those ratings that we have, and we ensure that any recommendations we put are in line with what's available. So, AAA, etc. We also have a look at our cash flow to determine when exactly we will need that money again, and we invest accordingly. Once we understand that, we then go out and look at the ones that fall within the ratings that we can have and the timeframes we can have, and we request rates from all providers that we work with to see what their rates are, and we invariably aim for the best rate. We do have all of our Muni funds that sit with Bendigo Bank, so that's our transaction account effectively, and the other ones we test.
Thank you. Councillor Smythe.
In page 96, and I hope it's in here, because I think you're going off the PDF file, aren't you? Because I wasn't before. Right? Yeah, page 96, adopt point, removal of the grading description of the Standard and Poor's credit ratings. But then when you go in the policy at 1.3 and at 3.1, it refers to the Standards and Poor's. Is that like we've removed it but it's still in there?
CEO.
Thank you, through the chair. I'll pass that on to our acting EMCCS.
Thank you, through the chair. So the ratings that remain are Standards and Poor's. We just removed the descriptors because we couldn't find a reliable source that matched those descriptors with those ratings. So we're still referring to Standard and Poor's.
So if I can assist, if you went to page 100, it does say under the description, for example, prime, high grade, upper medium grade, it's those descriptions that we couldn't see. So can you see that on your copy now? Yep. And getting a reliable description of those, or a reliable document to reference those to.
Page 100 at the bottom of the page. The description, right one. I understand that there was an incident over a decade ago that has cautioned local governments to take a conservative approach, and my observation is everyone takes that very seriously, and any recommendations to vary definitions, etc., are taken, under close scrutiny. I wondered if I can't really recall what other LGAs use. I just wondered if your amendments are consistent with other similar sized local governments, if that's some research that you have done. Thank you, CEO.
Thank you through the chair. I'll pass that on to our acting EMCCS also.
Thank you through the chair. So we did refer to other example local governments, similar policies. I believe I will refer to Manager of Finance in a moment, but my understanding is we're not the most conservative, but we're also not the most lenient either.
Yeah, that was my. I thought you weren't necessarily the most conservative, but you know, if it's consistent with others. But yes, if Ms. Goddard.
Through the chair, we did look at about 8 different local governments, similar size, some a couple of bigger. Two of them don't have any ratings in their policies at all.
Yeah, sorry.
None of them have the description, and that was the reason for taking that out. Some of them all are at 100%. Others go down to A+, A, 60%. Triple B plus down to 20%, double A 90, A 80, triple B 10. So it just depends. So yeah, and some have ADIs as well, which is authorised deposit taking institutions, where we are basically just staying with the major banks, or we have the capacity for some of the other banks like Rabobank, in those sorts of things, because they will fit within but their investment rates the interest rates have to be comparable to what the others are offering at this point.
And in your view, is this a do you feel this is a conservative, responsible parameters for an investment policy?
For me, yes. I'd be more than comfortable. The triple Bs, that's where you start looking at, things that could go wrong, but we've got a low limit set on that. So, I believe where we're sitting now and what we do, I'm comfortable with how we're managing it at this point.
Thank you for that assurance. Any other questions, Ms. McKeever?
So just leading on from what you've just said, where you've got 40% for triple B plus and 50% for A minus, how did you sort of come to those percentages? Was it a gut feel, or was it based on something particular?
Share that one, and I'll pass it on to our Manager of Finance.
Just looking at all the other ones that are out there and with what we're seeing in the industry. So, yeah, it does come down to a gut feel with what it is. And when you're working with community funds, you don't need to take that biggest risk. So, yeah.
Us then, just going back to the councillor's question, York Bank, what rating does that, do you know what rating they have? That might be the reason why.
Thank you, through the CEO.
And thank you through the chair. I'll pass that on to our acting EMCCS.
So they do have the acceptable rating. It's actually their rates that are not competitive.
Thank you. Any other questions? One more? Yes, of course.
Just a comment, just in relation to the policy itself. I'm just wondering whether you might want to include a definition of global credit framework. It's referred to in there. I was wondering if you just add in a definition for it at the bottom. And also there's a reference to Standard and Poor's, but not, it'd probably be good to add the words credit ratings so that it's really clear what you're referring to in the document, rather than just Standards and Poor's.
Through the CEO.
Thank you through the chair. I think we'd be happy to make that small change, and we will do that prior to presenting it to council.
I think Ms. Gobbart.
Through the chair, there is a definition for Standards and Poor's already sitting in the policy.
We won't do that one then.
I did see that definition of Standard & Poor's, but in the actual body of the document, rather than say just Standard & Poor's, it's better to say Standard & Poor's credit ratings. That's if you think that's a good idea.
Thank you, through the chair. So we've noted your concerns. We will take that and review and decide and make adjustments prior to council.
Thank you. Nicely. If can I have a mover and seconder, please?
The Trent?
Councillor Gibbs seconds.
Thank you. And all vote. That's 5-0 unanimous. Then we have the risk update. Questions? Councillor Smythe?
Page 109, loss of financial viability. Why is the current completion behind? And then in the graph, it shows 1% overdue, but there's nothing in that prior list. And you probably can answer them really easy.
Thank you, through the chair. So there are only two actions reporting against the risk controls under the strategic risk, and that's why the errors are in the reporting. But we've had a look at deeper than that, and the risk controls have had the slider manually adjusted, and I just don't think it's actually been brought up to date, because the goal has actually got a target date of 2030, and it certainly isn't behind currently. So I think that's just user error, and we can adjust that also.
Other questions? Ms McKeever?
I guess there's a similar question to Councillor Denise. The loss of financial viability on the dashboard says 61%, and it's highlighted in green. But then you go down to the other two beneath it, it's a less percentage completed, but they're not considered behind. So I didn't quite understand how that was all worked out.
Thank you. To the CEO.
Thank you, through the chair. I'll pass it on to our acting EMCCS for an answer.
Sorry, I missed the first part of that question. Sorry, can you repeat that?
So on the dashboard, it says loss of financial viability, 61% complete. There are other ones listed there that have a lower percentage of complete but aren't noted as behind. So why is that particular financial viability noted as behind? It's page 111 of the agenda.
Yeah, it goes back to the previous commentary from temporary CEO just regarding the manual sliders within the system, and then feeding back the giving a misleading indication of like the colouring is not correct and it's not an actual reflection of the progress.
So it's not behind. Is that what it means?
So this dashboard is showing at the strategic risk level, and that's feeding in from the controls in the system. And because someone's done manual slider on two of those controls rather than it reporting through the risk actions, it's created this anomaly in the system. And there's only two actions in the system that are reporting to this specific strategic risk. So they're not behind, but the system is reporting it incorrectly.
Thank you. I guess it's difficult to know without having the information in front of us as to know that the information that we're being given is correct. Probably the same for you. You don't really know if it's correct or not either, I'm assuming.
So thank you, through the chair. We do a review of the actual actions, but so we review at the granular level, and it looks reasonable there. It's just as the system breaks as it's coming through. So the reporting is probably where we need to work with our provider to get that adjustment made. We have been workshopping with the Audit Risk Committee to try and find a better way of reporting the risks. So we are constantly refining and updating this. We had, in the last one, we took out significant detail, and it feels like that's not assisting us get to a place where we all understand it better. Certainly the committee can understand it better. We have been out to a number of other councils to look at how they do that. We're getting closer to an idea of what that could possibly be. We also then need to feed it through the system and get that working. This one, because it does, as Annika's already pointed out, with the manual slider, it just doesn't seem to adjust correctly. But that's, I think, the first time we've had that on this one, so it's just a new condition we've got to, or possibly the last risk report as well. Yeah, so the last two, we've had some issues with it. Given that we're still not as close as we want to be on the actual reporting, probably drilling down into that detail is not as essential now as getting the reporting correct in a way that works for the committee. And as I said, that we are actually looking at it from an executive point at the granular level. So we actually go in and review each item. We're content that the items are being addressed. It's just the pictorial version of that that isn't coming across in a way that is as helpful reporting as we would like.
So just want to reiterate, I feel that we don't have proper oversight of it as a committee because of the way that it's being reported. And if, for example, if there had been an explanation of what behind meant or what doesn't mean in the actual covering report, it would have been a lot easier to understand what was going on. Thank you.
Sorry, and just through that, would it be better to go back to the more detailed reporting while we continue to work this out? Because then you at least have the oversight.
Do you mind if I perhaps contribute?
Yes.
So I can see the progress. I think that the risks are much more meaningful and targeted and relevant. And I can certainly see the maturation of it. The thing that I'm looking for to give meaning, because when I look at the risk rating, so there's two of them where they've got extreme, the thing that I go to are the treatments. And that's the thing that's missing and that I think would give you context. Because if we understand what the treatments are and when they're due, then we get a sense of, so what is behind, how important are they? And so for me, I think without overcomplicating things, that might help. So CEO, does that
We
answer
will,
the question?
yes, we'll certainly try to adjust it in that way for the next.
Please, Miss.
So with this system, the actions that we report against are our treatments.
That's right.
Yeah. So that longer report you used to see, were,
Yeah.
What Shona's referred to would be really useful.
Or I go back to it feels like the software is dictating what we get, and so I understand that's what you're saying. I want a high level, but maybe the software is not allowing that. But in terms of what would give meaning to me, high level treatments I think would assist. But anyway, I'll leave it with you. Of course.
Another suggestion, just to, for me, I'd like to understand more about how the ratings have been got to. I know that you've listed things there, but it doesn't really mean anything to me as to how the actual end rating has been achieved. So a bit of context behind that would be good, I
So
think.
you want the likelihood and consequence that calculates the rating in the first place. Yeah, which would sit behind that somewhere.
So through the chair, that actually is as part of our risk management framework. We apply that, and that is applied by the action owner behind the scenes. So that actually does sit in the risk register. But that was detail that we did strip out.
But maybe we could see it once. We could see it annually, potentially. Would that help?
Yes, thank
Because
you.
again, we don't want to get everything, but maybe. So, page 104, there's a comment around you think there may be merits in reviewing the risk management framework. I agree with that. I think that would be useful. We still want it to be streamlined, and as I say, feel like we've got to a smaller number of risks and relevant ones. There's additional information we want, but we don't want all the extra information you have, so. That's what, yeah. Yep.
Yep.
It was unnecessarily complicated, so we don't wish to make your life complicated again, but we're just not really understanding in the absence of some of the high-level information, I think. Is that a fair summary?
So as a suggestion, why don't we look at doing 2 workshops a year where we start the year with this is the risks, these are the treatments, and then you'll just get a dashboard going forward, and then at the last meeting of the year we go, here's where we landed, and then you can see in detail again. And that should really give you that good oversight. Does that make sense as a way forward?
Well, let's try it.
We'll try it, absolutely.
But as I say, we can certainly see the evolution, and we can see it is much more targeted and relevant than it was, and at an appropriate level. So, other questions? Mover and seconder, please.
So Trent?
Councillor Gibbs seconds.
Thank you. And voting? 5-0 unanimous. And page 112, audit findings. Questions? Is Ms. Gobbart coming back for this one? Oh, no, my apologies. Sorry. You were leaning back and I couldn't see. Look, don't let me disturb you. No, it's just I was going to pay you both a compliment. I thought that was a very good report and great explanation in giving context, and certainly gave me confidence that these things are being addressed in an appropriate way. So, yeah, I just wanted you to be there for that bit. I hope it was worth it. It has, but it was a good one. Any other comments or questions? Yes.
Councillor Gibbs speaking. Just having a quick look there at the recommendation itself. Is there a problem with the wording on point 1? Accepts the actions taken and residual risk for the following 3 findings, and there's 1 finding. So if we could...
We will amend. So do I need to move an alternate motion there, or we will put that as one? All right, absolutely. Yeah. We're nearly there. All right. Anything else? Well spotted, Councillor Gibbs. Oh, did you? No, I didn't. Okay, so mover and seconder, please.
Councillor Gibbs moves.
Thank you.
Councillor Trent seconds, with the adjustments.
Thank you. And voting? That's 5-0. Unanimous. And that brings us through to the... So, motions of which previous notice has been given, nil. Questions from members without notice, nil. Business of an urgent nature introduced by decision of the meeting, nil. And I close the meeting at 3:56. Thank you.